All right, y'all. We've hit our first snafu. I'm having a hell of a time, really hard, difficult time trying to figure out a way to capture a video that will allow me to share my screen to kind of orient y'all to this process. So I'm just going to talk to y'all real quick, kind of go over it, and then I'm going to do a screen share video, but you won't be able to hear sound. So it'll just show you where the different components are. But this whole thing is to help us get through board certification materials, create our packets, upload our stuff, so that we can apply for board certification. And so normally I do this with my residents over the third unit. And so that's like a 16, 17 week program. Theoretically, if they do the work and really lean in and do the hard stuff, they can have their board certification materials ready by the end of their residency. That's a lot to do in 16, 17 weeks when you're also being a level 1 resident trauma chaplain as well. So we're going to spread it out to make it a little more doable over 6 months. So if you go through this process, if you commit to it, if you do the work that I assign for each month, you will have your board certification materials ready by the end of this. Now, if you get started on it and you find out like, oh man, I just don't have enough time to commit to have this thing done, the assignment that Trey gave for each month, I can't get it all done. It's okay. Do what you can, because then you're just that much further down the road when you are able to come back and work on a little bit more. So don't think of it as an all or nothing. Think of it as kind of like progressive. Hey, if I really lean in, I have the time and I can do the work, I can have my board certification materials ready at the end of June, mid-July. I think it's July is what it is. And if not, I'm that much further down the road. So this is going to be one of those you're going to get from this, but you have to give to this. So the first thing first is we're going to create reading panels or reading partners. So some of the stuff you're going to write, we don't have time as a group to hear everybody present their full spiritual autobiography or their full clinical context narrative. I forget what they call it. I'm going to use the word verbatim. The difference is a verbatim is for learning. A clinical contact narrative is to demonstrate competency, but they're both verbatim formats basically. So I'll use it interchangeably, but we're clinical narrative. I may just call it that. So we don't have time to like share everybody's, and it's not CPU, so we're not doing verbatims for learning, but we will, each session, we'll take 1 or 2 examples and use them as an opportunity for awareness to see like, how could this work? What are the pros and cons? What are the tips and tricks? Not so much to nuance and go on a deep dive for each person. That's what you're going to do with your partners. So for this first month, you're going to write your spiritual autobiography. You're going to share it with your reading partners. They're going to read it, give you feedback, all that stuff. And then whatever questions come up during that, we'll engage those questions as we do a model or an example each month. So, yeah, the other part of this, what's really daunting often for people, one, just did all the parts and pieces that we're going to try to demystify, both through Elaine's video, which is available anytime you want to go watch it, and through this process. But when people open up the essays and they see that there's like 30 essays they have to write in all these different categories, it's just like, oh my God, I got to do what? So what makes this really work well is we're going to crowdsource that. So we're gonna divide up those essays. Everybody's gonna take 1, 2, or 3 each month and write them out. Make it your essay. So do it just like for you. And so that's gonna be what we're gonna do is then we will present each of those essays and we'll talk through them and we'll make notes. And so we need to be able to commit and pledge to each other that, hey, in this process, it's okay to share work, to borrow work, to come to best practices. Now, you're going to have to tweak it and make it sound like you. And so like if one person uses pastoral care and you use soul care and all your other essays, well, then you need to change that language. And of course, you're going to have your own examples because that's where these things really come to life. With the maxim show, don't tell is really important with these essays. Like show your work. Yes, there's theoretical pieces and we'll name those, and that's the part we're going to create together. But then your actual experience of it, that would come in these care incident. So for this first month, one of the assignments is going to be come up with 6 to 8 care encounters where you were doing your best work, where your chaplaincy self was shining bright, where you were knocking it out of the park. And it needs to be as diverse opportunities as possible. So patient care, trauma, long-term care, palliative care, staff support, collegial relationships, tending to the administrative leadership of the place, doing a flag raising. Well, whatever you can come up with, as many diverse scenarios as possible. Also, speaking of diverse, you need to be able to, as Elaine said, show how you handle diversity and inclusion. And so that's going to be something people are looking for. So if you could think of care encounters where you were engaging people who were very different than you with respect, humility, grace, great. Those are good too. So come up with 6 to 8 of those. Now, you're not writing full-scale verbatims for these. This is just a paragraph or two, half a page to a page. Get as much as you can about that encounter. And then what we're going to do is, from those 6 to 8 encounters, when you come to an essay, you're going to be like, oh yeah, in this case, in case number 3, I was doing that. And so I'm going to drop that piece in here. So that it's going to free you up from having to think of one theoretical piece for every essay, because you're getting help and coming up with that as a team. And then you don't have to come up with a different scenario for every one of those essays. You've already got your 6 to 8 base examples, and you're just drawing from those and sticking those in there. The other thing it does is it shows continuity of care in your practice. Like, I'm an integrated person who does this on these different scenarios, and you're getting a deeper look into each of those scenarios. Because one of them might be about, relational dynamics with an interdisciplinary team. And another one might be about how you used research. Well, that all happened in this conversation with this family. That also shows how you handle care with families that maybe you're at odds with the medical team or with each other. So you got this one case that can illustrate 6 or 7 of these scenarios. So that's we're going to get to that. That's in month 3 and 4. So we'll get there. And if you can't come and be present on the fourth Thursday of the month with everybody in the room, that's okay. We're going to figure out how to record these. I'm having a horrible time today, and we're going to sort that out. But we'll record these sessions, and you'll upload your stuff, your essays, just like everybody else. So if you can't be in the room, that's okay. We'll still read your essay and talk about it and nuance it. And, if you have notes that you want to share about, if somebody's got a question and you're not there to answer it, but you want to answer it through chat or the next month or whatever, that's cool. So it's not you have to be present to win scenario. You're going to be able to engage this however you're able to. So we'll figure out how to get these recorded. I'm irritated today that we couldn't make this work, and Kanisha and I will effort to find out what we can do about that. I don't know why we can't record in teams. That's a bit irritating. Every other place I've ever been, we've been able to record in team. So maybe it's just a switch we have to get them to turn on in IT. I don't know. But anyway, so for this month, you're going to find your pairing or your partner, whatever you want to call it. A dyad or a triad is good. Somebody you can count on that will read your stuff, that gets you. Somebody whose stuff you're willing to read, and you get them, you understand them a bit. That's ideal. And then you're going to create your 6 to 8 care encounter kind of narratives, half a page to a page. Sorry, I'm using some of the same language. These are not the verbatim care encounters you're going to submit. These are just 6 to 8 pericopes of when you were doing care, half a page to a page. And then you're going to work on your spiritual autobiography. The way this is going to work is you draft it up, you work on it. If you want to wait till you got it all done, then share it with your partner, or if along the way you want to share it so you can get feedback. But before March 28th, before our next meeting, everybody will have written their spiritual autobiographies, or as much as they can, and shared them and gotten feedback on that. And then when we get together on the 28th, we'll have 1 or 2 people that we actually read theirs all together and talk about them and that kind of thing. Create your partnerships, do your 6 to 8 encounters, and then your spiritual autobiography. And if you're an eager beaver and you get all that done, the next thing we're going to be doing is our first clinical context. What is the heck is this called? Clinical something narrative. I always forget that word. Sorry. But you're verbatim. So you got to do 2 of those. And there's instructions in the folder. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show y'all how the team is set up. You basically, everything's in the general channel under files. And I've got, for each of the different things, I've got a folder in there that's got instructions and resources. And then there's another folder inside that folder that says team member drafts. And so you can just pop your stuff in there. And if you don't know much about teams, from within that folder that says team members drafts, you can actually start a new document and do your Word stuff right from there in Teams. You don't have to upload things or go, create it in Word and then email it or any of that stuff. So it's really simple. Now, if you do want to do it separately on Word before you put it up there, you can. You just hit the upload button, and you can also just drag and drop it. So from whatever, on your screen, just drag it into that folder, and it'll show up there. So, sorry I can't be there to answer questions, but feel free to reach out with questions. And yeah, this will be fun. It'll be generative. Part of the joy of the crowdsourcing is we're also, what's going to bubble up is the Tampa General way, best practices, how we want to think about and work together with crafting language and our approach and where we put focus and emphasize things. So this is also going to really benefit the department and the hospital as a whole as well. So there's kind of a mutuality, coming together in this. I got to go eat lunch because we're about to start our sessions. I hope this has given you enough to get started. We're going to be meeting on the 4th Thursday of every month, 1:30 to 2:30. If you can't be there in person, that's okay. We're going to make it work. And yeah, so I'm going to share my screen for just a minute, and hopefully y'all will be able to see what I'm talking about with these different things. So, all right, peace out, y'all.